This recipe is for Fisherman's Pie. It's a family favourite, and I've deliberately chosen ingredients that are great for a really young child as well as a toddler and yourself. But first of all, let's talk about the fish we're going to use in it. The recipe works with white fish as well as oily fish, but because oily fish is really great for omega-3, I'm choosing salmon. Salmon's also quite a sweet fish, and a lot of children find that a lot easier to cope with than the stronger tasting fish. So on my raw fish chopping board, I've got 4 pieces of salmon. They're all farmed salmon, and on the right here I've got conventional farmed salmon, whereas these paler pieces, these are organic salmon. And you may see organic salmon and think, oh, it's not quite so attractive. But actually, it's quite common in conventional fish farming to give the fish food to make it look pinker, because we think it's how salmon should look, although really, this is a really natural colour. Occasionally, with wild salmon, you get red salmon, and they do have a really strong colour. But don't worry, if you're going for organic salmon, don't be surprised if it's that little bit paler. Right, let's go on with the recipe. I'm going to take one of the pieces of the organic salmon, and I'm just going to check it for bones. Now, I asked my fishmonger to make sure that this doesn't have bones in it. And it's also taken from a cut towards the tail, which is fewer in bones, so that's completely fine. Can't fit any bits in there, which is great. And I'm going to chop it into 1 or 2 centimetre chunks. So that's the fish ready to go, but let's have a look at the other ingredients we need. So I'm going to put the raw fish to one side, wash my hands, and let's get on with the other bits. So every good fisherman's pie should be topped off with a mash. So I've already washed, peeled and boiled some potatoes here ready to go. I'm going to use white potatoes for this topping, but it also works really lovely with a sweet potato mash just for a little bit of variety. But because the salmon's pink, I decided to go for white potatoes. So that's ready to go, ready to be mashed in a few minutes, but we need to do the base where the fish is going to be. So I've got a little frying pan here, a non-stick frying pan. We need a bit of olive oil. Bring that up to heat. Now we need some finely chopped onions or leek. This is actually onions, but leek brings quite a sweetness to it as well, so you can always vary it with some leeks instead of onion. We're going to saute or just gently fry the onion. What we're trying to do is not brown the onion, but it should start to go slightly see-through, which means it's softening but not browning. Once we've got that bubbling a little bit, I'm going to add the fish now, and I'm going to start cooking the fish through. The fish pie I'm going to show you today is just a pan method. We're not actually going to bake it. So everything's going to be thoroughly cooked before we put it into our little serving dishes. There is an alternative method where you don't need to cook things completely through in the pan. Just cook it for about 3 minutes so that the fish is sealed and all the vegetables are nicely mixed in. And then you bake it in an oven at about 200 degrees centigrade for 20 minutes so that it's really, all the flavours nicely sweeten off and the top goes nicely golden brown. But this one I'm showing you today is just the pan method. So I'm just going to bring the heat down so that the onions don't burn, and I'm now going to add in the fish. What I want to see is that the fish goes from this slightly transparent look to all sides starting to go opaque or solid white or pink. So keep it moving quite quickly around. Now if you're going to oven bake your fisherman's pie, you can add the other ingredients in straight away, but I want to make sure that the fish is thoroughly cooked. So I'm going to keep the fish moving and cooking for a good 5 minutes. And if you're not very confident with cooking with fish, then choose one of the larger pieces after about 5 minutes and just make sure that you're getting some cook through. If you chop the pieces smaller, obviously they'll cook a lot quicker. Okay, so I want to just check that the fish is getting nicely cooked through. So if you just want to check yourself, grab yourself a little knife and a fork and just choose one of the larger pieces, just cut it open and it should flake. There's no sign of it being cooked through. Even if there is at this stage, don't worry, because you're going to add some more vegetables and give it a little bit more of a cook. So you can just keep it moving around. So here I've got some chopped carrots, some chopped sweet corn, baby corn, and some peas. And I'm just going to add them all in. I used frozen peas here, but you can also finely chop some mange too instead. Now this is sizzling away, and what I want to see is that the fish is nicely cooked through before I add anything else. So make sure it's moving around so that each of the side hits the base of the pan so they cook through. Because this is suitable for a child that's as young as 10 months, there's no added salt to this dish at all. Because remember, you shouldn't add salt to food for a child that's less than 12 months. Okay, so now the salmon's nicely cooked. The vegetables are really starting to soften. I'm going to add some creme fraiche. The creme fraiche adds a creaminess to the base, but it also, obviously, because it's dairy, is a great source of calcium and vitamins D and vitamins A and so on. If you haven't got any creme fraiche, you can always add whole milk. Makes it a little bit runnier, but we are going to add, because we're using creme fraiche, we're going to add a little bit of water to make this a little bit wetter. Just take that off the heat completely because I don't want the creme fraiche to burn. I'm going to add about half a tablespoon of water. You can always add a little bit more if you feel you need it. Right, I'm going to set that aside for a minute and just finish off the mash. As I say, I've got white potatoes here. I'm going to mash those down, and I'm going to add in a good tablespoon of whole milk. Just give it a bit of a creaminess. Now, I adore Fisherman's Pie with a nice cheesy top on it. If you're going to use this recipe without the baking, then why not add the cheese into the hot mashed potato so it melts through? If you're going to do the baking method, then do the mash and then you're going to sprinkle the cheese on top, and then so you get that really nice bubbly grilled on top. So just sprinkle some mild cheddar into the mash. Now, because these are little individual servings, and because your child is really keen to be feeding themselves, then find yourself a little ramekin. If you are planning to use the oven to bake them off, then choose an oven-proof ramekin. Otherwise, you might find it doesn't cope with the heat. Put a good spoonful of the fish and vegetable mix in the base. And then we're going to top off with the cheesy mash. So just finish it off with a fork just to give it a nice top. And allow it to cool, just the right temperature for your baby. And then you have a lovely fisherman's pie. So this is ready to serve. If you decide to do the oven bake method, put the base in as you did before. So obviously it hasn't had quite so long to cook because the vegetables will be able to soften in the oven. Top off with some mash.